Hi guys, Surprise here, your local ported, expanding our universe, back with another video on the Demystifying of Astrology by yours truly, me. And this is simply a series where I get to strip away the mystery from astrology to make it easy to understand and more relatable so that you can use it as a tool for self-awareness. And so far in the series we have done 3 parts. This is the 4th part. And in this 4th part we are covering the houses, and what I mean by the houses in astrology is the different areas in your life in which now the different aspects could be placed. So yeah, for better understanding you could just go ahead and check out the previous videos on this part 4 of the houses, where I get to do an introduction of what I mean by the where, and also we've been able to cover the 1st, 2nd and 3rd house, and in this particular video we'll be continuing on with the 4th, 5th and 6th house. So let's get into it. The 4th house is known as the house of the home. This represents your living conditions as a child, basically how your home looked like as a child when you were growing up. Yeah. When I say the 4th house is the house of the home, it represents your security, your foundations, right? Your foundations, how you feel secure, how you move about with your different close relationships. Your upbringing is reflected in this particular house, since it's the house of the home and how you are brought up. And it also, in terms of security, remember I mentioned like security, it's both emotionally and also materially. Yeah. The 4th house is the area in which we become aware of our emotional needs and how we respond to different emotional triggers and all that. This is where now landscape, that's the word I was looking for. This is the house where you now get to discover your emotional landscape because of the kind of upbringing you have been in, right? Yeah. And also I would say this is the house that could reflect your ancestral lineage. It could reflect your parents, all that, your home basically. Yeah, of course the 4th house has a relation to a zodiac sign as well as a celestial body. So the 4th house is represented by your chest area, and your chest area, if you remember correctly from the zodiac signs, is a representation of Cancer, the zodiac sign Cancer, your feelings. Yeah. And we've already said that in the 4th house you start to discover your emotional landscape. It correlates. Simnona venye, it's like a pattern. Astrology is all about pattern recognition, okay? So everything ties into everything. Okay. Since it is big Cancer energy, the 4th house is big Cancer energy. Of course, it is the area of your life that represents how you nurture others and how you are nurtured, how you deal with the emotions and how you deal with the emotions of others, basically. Okay. Moving on to the next house, the 5th house. The 5th house is the house of self-expression, Leo energy. Leo is represented by the heart on the human body. The heart, self-expression, what sets you ablaze, what gives you life, you know. And Leo is represented by the sun for the celestial bodies, right? So the sun, vitality, how you move through this life, how you shine through this life, basically. The 5th house, since it is the house of self-expression, is where you develop your creativity and your joy for life and how you express yourself to the world. Okay. I could also say that the 5th house could also represent your teenage years and the developmental years, where now you started understanding yourself, you started knowing yourself, you started knowing what you like. Yeah, this is your teenage years, is the adolescent part of your life. I could say the 5th house also covers that. It could reflect that. Yeah, just as I've mentioned, it reflects your teenage years and when you started knowing. It's basically a representation of when you started developing your self-consciousness. Now you know what you like, you get into sports or music or theater or whatever it is. You realize that you really love maths and you really love outer space and all that. That is where you take up your hobbies, expression. Yeah, you could also find that affairs fall into this particular house, because when you are a teenager, that is when, the hormones and all that. So love affairs and all that could also be a reflection of the 5th house. Yes. And onto the 6th house. The 6th house is the house of service and health. And on your body, the 6th house would be represented by your stomach area. And if it's represented by your stomach area, when we're covering zodiac signs, we say that Virgo covers the stomach area, the back, and all that. Therefore, it only makes sense that it represents service and health, right? Yes. It's in our 6th house that we develop our need to be useful to the society. Now you've been developing ever since the 1st house. The 1st house was your persona, how the world meets you, right? The 2nd house we covered. Now you're starting to develop into the physical world. The 3rd house, you're starting to develop your conscious mind, right? The 4th house, what was the 4th house? The 4th house, you're starting to develop your emotional landscape. The 5th house, your expression. Now the 6th house, it's all coming together, where now you now need to understand how you can be of help to others, like what you can contribute to society, basically. Yeah. This is like the nature of work, the day-to-day experiences in which, the day-to-day experiences. Sorry, I blanked out for a moment. The 6th house can also represent pets. You find that the pets, if you love pets, you can always be able to tell that through looking at your 6th house. If you can remember when we were covering the zodiac signs, I think this was in part 2 of this series, we say that Virgo are the perfectionists. Virgo are the ones who love to bring order and all that. So if the 6th house also is a reflection of Virgo energy, then that means that through the 6th house, you are able to know where you fit and what you can do to contribute. I've already stated this. I feel like I'm just repeating myself. So sorry for that. Anyway, remember that I offer birth chart readings. You can always be able to dive deeper into how these things are looking for you as an individual. If you book a session with me, my DMs are open. Feel free to reach out in case of any queries and all that, and I'll catch you on the next one.